This also means grooming standards. No more beards, long hair, superficial individual expression. We're going to cut our hair, shave our beards, and adhere to standards. Because it's like the broken windows theory of policing. It's like when you let the small stuff go, the big stuff eventually goes. So you have to address the small stuff. This is on duty, in the field, and in the rear. If you want a beard, you can join special forces. If not, then shave. We don't have a military full of Nordic pagans. But unfortunately, we have had leaders who either refuse to call BS and enforce standards, or leaders who felt like they were not allowed to enforce standards. Both are unacceptable. And that's why today, at my direction, the era of unprofessional appearance is over. No more beardos. The era of rampant and ridiculous shaving profiles is done.
The thing that Pete Hegseth said today about no more beardos in the military, it's just a way for him to be racist and also Islamophobic without saying it. So the majority of shave chits are given for two reasons: for medical reasons and for religious exemptions. A lot of black people who have facial hair suffer from a condition called pseudofolliculitis barbate. I finally said it right. It's a condition where if you shave the hair, when it grows back, it's curly, so it can go back into your skin and cause an ingrown hair, and it's incredibly painful. So they can get a medical waiver for a no shave chit so that they don't have to suffer from a painful rash on their face. And the religious exemption should be obvious. They want a Christo-fascist nation. Pete Hegseth is part of a Calvinist Reformed church run by Doug Wilson. So he wants people only of that particular Christian faith to be in the military. If you think that's okay, just remember that any group that's based on excluding people will only exclude more people. And that'll eventually include you.
All right, guys. So once again, we got to talk about the liberal left losing their minds over something that President Trump said or did, or something that one of his cabinet officials said or did, because at this point, they literally have nothing except Trump derangement. They don't stand for a damn thing except being against Trump. It doesn't matter what it is, okay? President Trump came out here and said eating shit is bad for your health, right? You shouldn't eat shit, okay? Democrats, liberals, leftists will be on the internet eating shit sandwiches, right? They would have shit-eating contests, right? They would have a mouthful of dookie. And Trump said, don't eat shit, right? That's how Trump deranged they are at this point. And I think stories like this are exactly what I'm talking about, okay? Because Pete Hegseth, the Secretary of War, which triggers Democrats, that the administration changed the name of the Department of Defense to the Department of War, right? Pete Hegseth gave a speech in front of some of the nation's top generals. And he basically fat shamed some of these generals, saying that, listen, we have standards, right? And if I'm going to be in shape, okay, as the leader of the military, then you guys have to be in shape too, right? We have to uphold a certain standard, a certain amount of professionalism, and show discipline, okay? Because apparently under the Biden administration, under the leadership of Democrats, the military is lacking discipline, right? And, you know, personally, I see no problem with this whatsoever, right? You know, I think that fat shaming is good, right? I think we need more fat shaming. I think we need more shaming in society. I think that's one of the reasons why our country has fallen off of a cliff and we're desperately trying to climb back up, is because we don't have standards anymore, right? We don't shame people, right? And I think the military being in shape, or asking the military or military leaders to be in shape, is really not controversial. But for whatever reason, the left has made this one of the most controversial stories of the week.
With physical fitness and appearance. If the Secretary of War can do regular, hard PT, so can every member of our joint force. Frankly, it's tiring to look out at combat formations, or really any formation, and see fat troops. Likewise, it's completely unacceptable to see fat generals and admirals in the halls of the Pentagon and leading commands around the country and the world. It's a bad look. It is bad, and it's not who we are. So whether you're an airborne ranger or a chairborne ranger, a brand new private or a 4-star general, you need to meet the height and weight standards and pass your PT test. And as the chairman said, yes, there is no PT test. But today, at my direction, every member of the Joint Force at every rank is required to take a PT test twice a year, as well as meet height and weight requirements twice a year, every year of service. Also today, at my direction, every warrior across our Joint Force is required to do PT every duty day. Should be common sense. I mean, most units do that already.
I say, Michael, to begin with, that we've created a bridgehead over the Rubicon. It's not just crossing it. We've put some things on the other side in a big way. You asked if I'm talking to them. I am. I won't talk about those conversations that I've had with active duty members of the military, but the ones I've talked to are insulted by what happened today, especially the women that I've talked to. Some of the women that I've spoken to. I know the men and women that were in that room. Many of them work for me. I haven't been retired that long.
And so the reports are that the generals were disgusted and they resented being used as props by Donald Trump. Now, let me tell you why this matters so much. In every authoritarian system, there's a really important question. Does the dictator have the military on their side, or is the military against them? If the brass of the military is on your side, you can get away with almost anything. If the brass is laughing at you behind your back, if they don't respect you, if they believe you're wasting their time by flying them halfway around the world to rant about gold paper and have Hegseth say no fat people, you are weak. And what can really take down dictators and authoritarians is when they do not have the military behind them. So it's actually, as cartoonish as this was, as much of a waste of taxpayer money as it was, as pathetic as the entire thing was, it is critically important that it doesn't seem that Trump and Hegseth have the military brass behind them. And that actually should make us feel safer. The Department of War thing is pathetic. Hegseth keeps saying it like it's a magic spell. The Department of War, as if you repeat it enough, you're going to be strong. Trump did the same thing. He kept insisting, he's respected, we're respected, I won 2020, I'm really tough. But saying you're tough over and over again to people like the top brass of our military suggests to them that you're actually insecure, which Trump is.
We don't have a military full of Nordic pagans, but unfortunately we have had leaders who either refuse to call BS and enforce standards, or leaders who felt like they were not allowed to enforce standards. Both are unacceptable. And that's why today, at my direction, the era of unprofessional appearance is over. No more beardos. The era of rampant and ridiculous shaving profiles is done. Simply put, if you do not meet the male-level physical standards for combat positions, cannot pass a PT test, or don't want to shave and look professional, it's time for a new position or a new profession.
So now here's where he says, bro, fat shaming is definitely the way to go. Watch this.
It all starts with physical fitness and appearance. If the Secretary
That's the audio from the event that's fucked up, by the way.
of War can do regular, hard PT, so can every member of our Joint Force. Frankly, it's tiring to look out at combat formations, or really any formation, and see fat troops. Likewise, it's completely unacceptable to see fat generals and admirals in the halls of the Pentagon and leading commands around the country and the world. It's a bad look. It is bad, and it's not who we are.
I find this shit so weird, right? Because you could have some brilliant military mastermind that understands like the chess of the battlefield, right? And he could be overweight. Like, why does that matter to you? It almost reminds me of like the Joe Rogan theory of medicine, where he's like, if that doctor's out of shape, I'm not fucking listening to them. I know better than them. Like that, and it's like a dumb guy's reaction to the world, right? Like, if you don't look the part, then what the fuck, bro? It's like, you could have some fat military genius, but no, I don't know. This is so babyish.
So whether you're an airborne ranger or a chairborne ranger, a brand new private or a 4-star general, you need to meet the height and weight standards and pass your PT test. And as the chairman said, yes, there is no PT test. But today, at my direction, every member of the Joint Force at every rank is required to take a PT test twice a year.
Oh, they're gonna love this, bro. Oh, they're so stupid. Imagine ordering a meeting with all the top generals and admirals and highest military officials, and then in that meeting, you start lecturing them and berating them, saying they're too fat, they're too out of shape, and now they got to do 2 physical tests per year. And these people are, people have been in the fucking military 20 years, 30 years, whatever the fuck. You've gotten to the point where you're not doing the physical shit in the field. You're the brains of the operation, right? And he's fucking scolding them, basically. You're making them hate you.
Yeah, so again, disclaimer, as somebody who has never been in the military, okay, so maybe my opinion on this is, not valid. I don't know. I don't see what's wrong with this, to be honest with you, right? I honestly don't see why these people are upset, right? This is one of those stories where I just kind of feel like they're upset because they just don't like the fact that Pete Hegseth fat shamed these generals, right? Told these generals that, hey, you got to show some discipline, right? That you need to set an example for everybody, right? And that everybody has to be held to the same standard, no matter what your rank is, right? Everybody has to be held to a certain standard of professionalism, right? And conduct. Again, I'm not sure what is so controversial about this, right? I mean, we're talking about the military, right? I mean, their job is to fight and to kill, right? I mean, being in shape is a part of that, right? Discipline, okay, is a part of that. I'm not entirely sure what's so controversial here. But again, the leftists have got their talking points. All of them are putting out the same propaganda that these generals hated this, right? They hated it. They resent Pete Hegseth and they hate Trump and yada, yada, yada. Now, meanwhile, right, like, what I actually care about is how well does the military fight. And I think that we saw the execution of the military when they took out Iran's nuclear facilities. The flawlessness of that strike and what they did tells me everything I need to know about Pete Hegseth and his ability to lead and to call the shots, right? Because again, if you look at the actual execution, seems pretty damn good. That was one of the most effective military strikes operations that I've ever seen, right? It was put on display for the world to see, and it was flawless. So, this idea that the military hates Trump, hates Pete Hegseth, that they're bad for the military, I'm not buying it. I'm just not buying it. It's not like we had the same disaster that we had under Biden administration with Afghanistan, right? Which, in my opinion, was an embarrassment to our military. I mean, we fought and died in Afghanistan for 2 decades to take over the country. And then as soon as we leave, we handed it back to the Taliban with all of our weapons and equipment, right? In my opinion, completely and totally erasing the whole point of invading Afghanistan in the first place. I think that is something I'll be much more concerned about when it comes to the military than Pete Hegseth coming in and saying that, hey, you need to stay in shape, right? You need to show discipline. You need to hold yourself to a certain standard, the same standards that you want the people who listen to you to follow, right? Like, you need to show that you are upholding those standards, right? You need to be a model, okay, for others to follow. Like, again, I'm not entirely sure what is so bad about this, right? But for whatever reason, liberals have found this controversial, right? And even the cackling hens have weighed in on this, and their opinion is as stupid as you can imagine. So without further ado, let's go ahead and get into it.
Right before we went on the air, the newly renamed Secretary of War, Pete Hegseth, spoke to U.S. military leaders from around the world to lay out his very retro vision for our armed forces. Watch.
This administration has done a great deal from day one to remove the social justice, politically correct, and toxic ideological garbage that had infected our department. We are done with that. It's tiring to look out at combat formations, or really any formation, and see fat troops. Likewise, it's completely unacceptable to see fat generals and admirals in the halls of the Pentagon. We're empowering drill sergeants to instill healthy fear in new recruits. Yes, they can shark attack, they can toss bunks, they can swear, and yes, they can put their hands on recruits.
Why is he obsessed with fat?
Yeah, and fitness and...
Anyway, this was
Wow. Unbelievable. Absolutely unbelievable. Are you telling me that these people don't understand how important it is to be in shape, right, in the military? Right? I'm just saying, again, I haven't served in the military, but I do think, just using common sense, that it is important considering how, if you are fighting in combat, that, you be in shape. And even as a general, you're somebody that is supposed to be setting the standard, right? Yeah, being fat probably is not a good look, right? It's probably not a good example to be setting for the people that you're supposed to be leading. Now, again, I'm just trying to figure out what is the problem, right? I'm still trying to figure out what exactly is the problem here.
just the opening act because Trump took the stage after he did, and I think he's still talking right now. But take a look.
If you want to do anything you want, you can do anything you want. And if you don't like what I'm saying, you can leave the room. Of course, there goes your rank, there goes your future. We went, in a way, woke. That was probably the first sign of wokeness. And we changed it to defense instead of war. And I said, what do you think? How do you think if we changed it back? Would that be a nice idea? I thought it would be met with fury on the left, but they're sort of giving up, I must be honest with you. They've had it. They've had it with Trump. You don't have to be that good with nuclear. You could have 1/20th what you have now and still do the damage. You can't let people throw around that word. I call it the N word. There are 2 N words, and you can't use either of them.
So how do you think the highest...
That N-word joke never gets old, right? Trump is a master troll at this point, to be honest with you. But yeah, I mean, you get the gist of kind of what's going on here.
These are the tip top of the military line, listening to someone give kind of a knockoff TED talk about something, and I still haven't figured out what it is. I think it's a waste of money. It's a waste of time. And do they know the government might be shutting down tonight, and we are paying money to make it a mandatory meeting to hear from Pete Hegseth?
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah, that part. I'm actually really befuddled by why he did that. The optics were terrible, meaning all of our top military brass are all in one place, and we spent $6 million to get them there. That didn't make a lot of sense to me. It also didn't make a lot of sense to me that he was saying that he was going to toughen physical standards and review the anti-hazing policy by sort of implementing a hazing policy. And then also he said he was going to return to the highest male standard for combat positions because the troops were fat. I don't understand how that was supposed to be an uplifting message for our military.
Maybe he's referring to Colonel Sanders.
It was really a bizarre thing. He started talking about woke DEI policies. By the way, there are no gender quotas in the military. By the way, he fired more than a dozen military leaders, many of them people of color and women. He fired the chairman of the Joint Chief of Staff, General Charles Brown Jr., who is African-American. Yeah. He fired the first woman to command the Navy, Admiral Lisa Franchetti. I don't understand the sort of hypocrisy of firing these people, having all these people meet together, and then denigrating them.
But did you look at it? They look like...
Yeah, so I'm not sure what's hypocritical about that, but at this point, I think they're just grasping for straws here, right? This is what you do when you're losing, right? This is what you do when you're desperate, right? Oh, Pete Hegseth told the military to stay in shape, right? He wants the generals to have standards. Again, I'm not entirely sure what is so bad about what he said, right? And what he did. Even down to having all the generals in one place. It's not like, they didn't have protection or, they did not, coordinate security and things of that nature. Like, they got it, right? I mean, I don't see the problem. There is a difference between a Zoom call and doing something in person, right? I think that there certainly is a difference. I mean, you could apply this argument to almost anything, right? Why have the view in person, right? Why are you guys all at this table talking, right? Instead of on Zoom, right? Like you were during the pandemic. Well, the reason why you're at the table is because being in person, talking to each other in person is different. It's a different experience, right? It hits differently. And that was the whole point of having them all there in person, right? So to pretend as if you don't understand that, again, it's just silly to me. And it's just at the point where it's like, all right, like there are legitimate criticisms and then there's stuff like this, right? This is what happens when, again, you're desperate and you don't have any real criticism. So you just find stuff to be outraged about. Holding the military to the highest standard possible is not something to be outraged about. But again, at this point, if President Trump and Pete Hegseth told liberals, hey, don't eat shit, it's bad for you, they would go to the nearest toilet bowl and scoop out as much dung as possible and they would eat it on the spot, right? That's exactly what they would do. And it's really pathetic at this point. It really is. But hey, maybe I'm wrong about this. I don't know. Maybe I'm missing something. Some of you who did serve in the military, let me know, right? Did Pete Hegseth say anything wrong, right? Was he out of bounds for telling the generals that they should be in shape, right? So, I don't know, but let me know what you guys think. Make sure you like, comment, and subscribe. Most importantly, share a Black conservative perspective. Peace.